Hi guys! In today's video, I want to tell you about how I scored 29 out of 30 on the TOEFL speaking test. So, number one thing, before taking the test, I made sure I had the correct level. A lot of people underestimate how important it is for you to have the right level when you take the test. And many people who are not at the correct level yet think that if they start preparing for the test and if they do a lot of mock tests, they will be able to get a good grade, but that's not how the TOEFL works. If all it took for a basic speaker of English to get a high grade on the TOEFL was a couple of months of preparation, it wouldn't really assess their skills properly. So the first thing you need to do if you want to take the TOEFL test is get professional assessment of your skills. You can do that by hiring a teacher. If you get a qualified teacher, someone who's experienced and someone who's also taken the test, that person will be able to give you a very clear picture of what your grade would be. Another thing you can do is, I'm leaving a link here, you can go on ETS's website and get a sample of the test. With that sample, you will be able to see how the test works. Now, top tip, CEFR stands for Common European Framework Reference, and it's what we use to assess everyone's linguistic skills anywhere in the world. My biggest thing with the TOEFL is that it doesn't assess your level properly. If you're B1 or lower, I actually think if you're B1, it will be hard for you to get a score which will reflect the skills you actually have with the language. So if you get assessed by a teacher and your teacher says to you that you're not ready to sit the test yet, then my suggestion is get some general English classes. You can focus on more academic and university life topics in your classes, and then once you're ready, you can sit the test. Otherwise, you're going to be wasting time and money. So unfortunately, a lot of people leave preparation to the very last minute, and cramming will not work for tests like TOEFL. They're intended to test the level where you are. Another thing that I did, which I think was very important, was I selected the correct study environment. With the regular English test, or with a, I guess we can say with a normal English test, you will be in a room. It's very quiet while you're taking the test, and you'll be sitting. No one is allowed to talk, so it's quite silent. With the TOEFL test, that's not what you're getting. You're actually going to be in a room with a group of people. You don't have a person assessing your speaking skills. You're going to do everything with the computer, and you will have very likely two strangers sitting next to you. I found that when I first heard about it, I found that really uncomfortable, especially because you will be talking to the computer while someone else might be doing reading and someone else might be doing listening. So what I decided to do is study in places that had people walking past, that had people talking while I was reading. And you know, with the speaking test, it made a lot of difference because it meant I had strangers walking around and sitting close to me while I was talking to the computer. It was funny because when I actually did my test, the person next to me had technical problems, so they needed the assistance of the examiners quite a few times. If I hadn't prepared, I would have gotten distracted, and that would have definitely played a role in my final grade. So my advice to you is don't study in your room or in your office. Try going to a place like Starbucks or your university cafeteria, or you know, even a food court at a shopping center. It will make a lot of difference in how comfortable you are. You will get as few distractions as possible during the test, but unfortunately, sometimes people have technical problems, and we all know each second of the test counts. So choose an environment where you will get distractions all the time so that you're up to speed with that. Another really important thing I did was I chose the program over the paper books. I see with students a lot of the time you buy the preparation books, they're really thick, and people spend hours and hours training for the test on the hard copies. That's not a good idea. At least, you know, it's not a good idea to prioritize the book over the program, because on the day of the test you are going to have to sit the test on a computer. I also trained the test on ETS's program. You can get free samples on their websites for you to see what the program is going to look like. I think familiarizing yourself with the design, with where to click, with how things look on a screen, how the scrolling works and everything makes a lot of difference, and you need to be very comfortable with that because that's a huge part of your assessment. So get the program, play with it, study as much as you can on the program. If I were a student right now, I would also get online classes instead of face-to-face, because that's yet another thing that would help me get familiar with studying online. As I said, the test is fully taken in computer labs, and if you're doing online lessons, it's very likely that you will get familiarized with what's going to happen in the test environment. One of the things that I also did was learn about patterns. So exams have patterns, and what I mean by patterns is all question ones are similar. All question twos will ask you about a similar topic. All question threes will cover the same range of subjects. Once you know what kind of subject and what kind of questions they're asking, it becomes much easier for you to take notes, because you know what to listen for when you're preparing for the test. So I think that makes a lot of difference. If you think it's difficult to take notes, I suggest putting some effort into it and practicing, because it's gonna help you a lot. One of the things you're going to see with the speaking test is it's not a very natural thing. You're talking to a computer with a timer, so that means if you want to speak in a very spontaneous way, it's very likely that you will have problems. That's why learning how to take notes, learning what's expected from you, will make a lot of difference in your final result. Another thing that was really important was getting used to having a timer. So every time I studied, every time I did anything concerning the test, I always set a timer for myself. And I did quite a few situations where I sat down and I did the entire test, which was something I did so that I could create a situation where I would still perform well even if I was tired. One of the things you're going to see with the TOEFL is it's very exhausting. By the time you start the speaking test, you will have taken the reading and the listening. You will be tired. It's important that you prepare yourself for that kind of situation, and the way to do that is practice creating similar TOEFL environments or TOEFL situations. So doing full mock tests without a break is a very useful thing that you can do. Actually, let me rephrase it. You can take a 10-minute break between reading and listening and speaking and writing, and that's what I did. On the day of the test, I avoided drinking water. The reason for that is because if you drink a lot of water, you are going to want to go to the loo, but you can't pause the test. So you can't pause the test if you're, if you want to go to the bathroom. It's another thing for you to be worried about. So I just avoided drinking any water before my speaking test. Another thing that's very important is you're going to have 3 sheets of paper and a pencil. If you've used those sheets of paper for taking notes for the listening and reading, when you come back from your break, make sure you get the papers before you start the test, because as I said, there's no pause button in any notes. And last but not least, I believed in myself. So I studied really hard, I prepared very well, I memorized as much information about the test as possible. I did full mock tests. It made a lot of difference in my confidence. I think 50% of any test is how confident you are about your skills. So when you sit down to do the test, believe in yourself, believe that you can do it. It will play a huge role on your final result. And the best way to do it, as I always say, is study hard. Is do as much as you can to learn about the test, even if you don't have a lot of time. It doesn't matter. If you work hard, if you have the correct level and you practice at the correct environment, you are fully capable of getting a very good score. I'm sending you positive energy. If you have any comments or anything you'd like to ask, feel free to post here. I'll see you guys soon. Bye.